Cop Block Hot Springs asks, is it justified for a president to use defensive force to protect access to platforms? Well, isn't that a hot button issue?
Wow.
Let's talk about it, because I think we're going to get into that here in a minute. Let me see if we should talk about it now or in a second. Yeah, now's good. And while we talk about it, I'm just going to put this little article right here, just to kind of help make the point. So, yeah, did you see that face? Did you see his face? Yes.
Oh. Dang, man.
All right. So it's a good question, man. Is it justified for a president to use defensive force? He put that in quotes, quote, defensive force to protect access to platforms. Is it justified for me to use defensive force to protect my access to your house? That's how I would put the rebuttal. It's either your property or it's not your property. If it is your property, you are the sovereign of that property. No one, no group of people, no government of any level can tell you what to do or what not to do rightfully on your property without your consent. Remember, this all goes back to consent. The government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. It's your property. If you don't consent to those restrictions, then those restrictions are not binding upon you. As long as you rightfully own the property. And Twitter owns those servers. Twitter spent its resources writing its code to provide that stupid ass website to y'all to use. And the only reason we're even talking about it is because they did such a good job that a lot of y'all are using it. They have a sovereign right to that property. Yep. And just because a dude, a lot of people call a particular reality TV show star the president, doesn't give him any right to Twitter's property or any right to control Twitter's property. That's not how consent works. And you know what? This is not me defending Twitter. I think they are a garbage company. I think they are responsible for a large portion of the decline in our freaking civilized society over the past 6 years. I think they're terrible in just about every way I can imagine. So this is not me defending them. This is just me saying, look, it's their property. Like, I don't have to like how my neighbor cuts his grass. It's his grass. I may hate it. I may think he's, a terrible neighbor. But as long as he keeps on his own property and leaves me and my stuff alone, I can't control him. Shep, what do you think?
I completely agree. And I would even add that I think it's a good warning to us that we don't get lazy and take things for granted. And if we think, well, Twitter's always there. If I want to speak to 10 million people or 50 million or whatever, all I have to do is go on there and say it, and 50 million people will hear. And that becomes the norm. And I think it's important to remember that, yeah, maybe the car you have right now, when you turn it on and it's dark out, the headlights come on, but it's still your responsibility. And there's a little switch there that you can turn the headlights on if you need them. And you can't trust that that automated system is always going to work. And it's so easy to get lazy and say, well, no, of course I'm using Google Docs for all of the business stuff because I can coordinate with people all over. It's handy. It's wonderful. I wish the free market would come up with something better. They haven't yet. A better solution that does everything I need. So I use Google Docs, but I have to realize that at any moment it can disappear along with all of my hard work. And if it does, I can't complain. Actually, I can because I'm paying them a lot of money for storage. But if I wasn't, I couldn't complain. If I wasn't renting property, I couldn't complain.
Yeah, unless you had a contract saying otherwise. And I mean, let's be honest, guys, the Twitter terms of service is pretty freaking clear. They can ban you and not give you a reason, and you just need to deal with it. Like, if you don't like that, stop using it. Those are the rules for their property. The best counter argument I've heard, but I still have not heard this well enough defined to accept it or to change my position, is this by Heather Hill. She says she disagrees. The federal government has supported those companies with our tax dollars. That is how they got so big. What do you say to that?
That is an excellent point. However, the existence of a federal government and the existence of them owning anything, it's just kind of, the more I've looked into it, the more I've realized I don't think they can own anything. And yeah, they've propped people up, but it's with things they didn't own. They've stolen money from Peter and they've invested it in Paul, but they have, it's not like they gave them, you rightfully gave them your money, or I rightfully gave them my money in a peaceful, voluntary way. It didn't happen that way. I had money stolen from me, and then it was spent in ways that I didn't approve of. But the middleman gets to have no say. The middleman thief who stole from me and gave to somebody else and propped him up, shame on him. But he then has no right to keep that platform, or his organization has no right to keep that platform, I wouldn't think.
Well, I can't just agree with you all night, Shepard. So I'm going to try and devil's advocate this. Let's see.
Awesome.
Okay, so the roads. What gives you the right to drive on the roads? You don't own them. Isn't it the same argument? Like you were stolen from to pay for those roads, like your resources were taken from you non-consensually and then used to create those roads. How could somebody tell you that you don't have the right to drive on those roads? You were stolen from to pay for them. So if you were stolen from and then in part paid for Twitter, who is to tell you that you don't have the right to use Twitter? Who cares what Twitter thinks? You helped pay for it.
Let me ask you this. Let's say, and we're going to, for Twitter, and I don't know what percentage.
How did I do?
Twitter,
how did I do, first of all?
That was awesome. I'm sitting here going, whoa, wait. But then, because I have an IQ of over 94, I was able to come up with the following.
Oh, geez.
I don't know what percentage of Twitter's success is due to their own investments through free market methods and which are due to government injections of cash. Let's say it's 80-20. They came up with 80% of what they have because of their own efforts, and 20 came from the government. So then I would transfer that over to a private road that was 80% privately paid for, and 20% of it was paid for by the state Department of Transportation. Because some people stole some money and donated the stolen money to a private project, can the thieves then control who gets to drive on this 80% privately owned road? And I don't have an answer for this, because if I take it down, I say, okay, what about 51% 49? What about 49-51? What if it was 20-80 instead of 80-20? I don't know. That's an excellent question.
I'm almost convincing myself right now, so I'm going to have to think on this maybe after the show later. But I'm just thinking, like, if my neighbor is going to if my neighbor is going to accept my stolen money from a thief to improve his front yard, am I really going to care about his property rights? Like, he clearly doesn't care for mine if he's taking my stolen money. Like, why should I care? Like, why should I care about Twitter if they're taking my stolen money? What? And you know what? Another one, just to steel man this further, I heard that the feds were calling on Twitter and Facebook to provide them, to do their own data mining operations, to provide them lists of potential bad operatives, bad, boogaloo types, or people that participated in the recent Capitol protest. If the social media networks voluntarily collude with the federal government to oppress its people, why do I give a shit about their rights? Huh?
Yep.
Am I convincing myself now? I don't know.
Yeah, this is a good question. And if anybody out there is getting the horrible idea that 40 million people should all start tweeting and Facebooking about how much they enjoyed kicking a particular door down at the U.S. government's Capitol, so that there are 40 million suspects to look at instead of only a few thousand. Don't mess with the FBI like that. They're really busy folks, and that would really slow them down on their operations. So please don't do that.
This is my favorite thing. This is my favorite way to spend my time. Thank you for joining me, Shepard. I invited him on here like 40 minutes before we went live, and he was like, he pulled it off. So thank you. I'm enjoying this.
Well, and thank you, Honey Bunny, for letting me have an evening and us not cuddling on the couch like I love. Well, by the way, I'm not speaking to Patrick right now. I'm speaking to my wife, who I assume is watching.
Now I feel bad.
Yeah,
for your
sorry.
Wife. I stole your husband from your wife. I apologize. Tyler. Oh, Tyler says he's convinced. Which way? For or against Twitter? For or against Twitter's property rights? This is interesting. I'm going to put some thought into this, guys. I'm going to put some thought into this. This is fun.
And as we think about it, do you think percentages matter as we think about it? Do you think if Twitter is 99% awesome?
That's an excellent question. I have never found a continuum problem that I was satisfied with that being the conclusion to an ethical equation. Every single, that's what you're talking about. It's basically a continuum problem. The same thing would be like, other examples of the continuum problem would be like the age of consent. Like a lot of people want to pick an age that constitutes the age after which you are an adult and can consent. And it's a continuum problem is what most people say. I disagree with that as well. Like every single time I've seen a continuum problem, I've found a better way to think about it. And so I think I just need to do that for this one. I don't think.
May I toss out one more?
Yeah.
One more quickie on this topic. And I haven't thought this through, obviously, because I just thought of this. What about if somebody is a self-employed small business person working hard for the last 30 years, and then they accepted their $1,200 government welfare check that was sent out to the stimulus check that was sent out last year, and they accepted that because they accepted stolen property and put that toward their mortgage? May I now, have they lost all rights to their home because they had one little bit that was funded?
I have worked hard AF to figure out what rights are and who gets them and how they function over the past couple of years. And I think I have come to a novel understanding that I haven't heard other people put forward. And you've heard me talk about it before. It's and there's an article stub that has not yet been fleshed out on disenthrall.me/rights that sort of defines what rights are, not what the rights are, but what a right is. What is this concept called rights? It is a mutual reciprocal understanding, which means that it is individual. And so you're asking me, like, do people lose rights? Well, that's asking for an objective answer that would apply to everyone, but that's not how rights function. It's a mutual reciprocal understanding. The question is,
very true.
Does Patrick want to continue reciprocating rights with companies that accept my stolen property? That's the question that you have to ask. That's
Excellent.
The question. And right now, I really don't. I'm really feeling no impetus to respect Twitter's rights. To be honest, and dude, literally, like we opened the show today with a recording of the FBI showing up at a friend of mine's house here in Dallas, because this is conjecture. I cannot prove this. I have no evidence as of yet that I can show you guys on this, but I think it was because of the same reason I got deleted from Facebook. There was that meme group. It was a Boogaloo meme group that we called CNN. I think Murdoch even maybe have started it. It was called CNN News, and it was meant to be the new Boogaloo meme group because, you know, they can't take down something called CNN News, right? Anyway, so it was a total like joke meme group, and a bunch of people started posting a lot of spicy memes, and Facebook deleted the accounts of a lot of the people that were participating in that group, and they literally told me it was because I violated their terms and conditions against making terroristic threats. So I have a feeling that if Facebook actually thought that we were involved in making terroristic threats, that they zipped up a list of all the people that they deleted that day and handed it to the FBI. And I really think that that's why now somebody's knocking on my friend's door wanting to interview them about the Boogaloo. So yeah, I don't really feel reciprocal with Facebook right now, Shepard.
I got to get rid of Facebook, Twitter, Mozilla Firefox. What else? Ice cream? Come on, Patrick. What are you doing to us?